Hello friend, welcome to Fearless World, and I am going to start workplace hazard, risks and control. This is the element 1 of IGC2, and in element 1 we will study section by section. This is element 1.1, in which we will study about health, welfare, work environment requirement. Then we will study one by one in next slides. First one is the welfare requirement. What is welfare? That means basic facilities at the workplace is called welfare. What is basic facilities? Drinking water, sanitary convenience, washing facilities. These are the basic. That means drinking water should be available in wholesome and leveled. If not, that means that should be marked. This is a drinking water. And sanitary convenience should be in sufficient number according to number of worker is there, separate for men and women, and protected from weather. That means that should be covered to protect from rain, and it should be clean, lit and ventilated, and provision for disabled, and also that sanitary convenience should be access for disabled persons. Washing facilities. What will be the criteria for washing facilities? Washing facilities should be close to the toilet. That means after toilet we will able to wash our hand, and changing room. That means that should be beside changing room, and shower if required. In washing, shower if required, and hot and cold water should be there. Also soap and towel for hand clean, and means of drying, and if required there should be dryer for hand drying. So these are the three basic welfare requirement. And also changing room. Why changing room required at the workplace? Because we go from home, from our room at the workplace, and we have to change our clothes depend upon the workplace. Suppose a painter is going to paint something, that means he can't paint on their own cloth. That means he have to change cloth. So changing room is required for a special work wear. Lit, clean and ventilated. Changing room should be lit, that means properly lighted. It should be properly lighted and cleaned and ventilated. Separate facilities for men and women. That means you know that for men and women it should be separate for their privacy. And accommodation for clothing. Suppose you have to change at the workplace, and you can't carry daily by daily your clothes from room to you at your workplace. So it is required to available a locker for you. That means accommodation for clothing. That means a locker is required. Personal clothing clean and secure. Clothing should be personal, clean and secure, and separate storage for dirty work wear. That means for clean or for dirty it should be separate, because it may contaminate to other clothes. Resting and eating facilities. Also resting and eating facilities should be available at the workplace. This is the basic requirement, welfare requirement. Because if you are working 4 hours and you need rest, that means lunch, then where you will sit and where you will eat. If you eat at the workplace, there may be chance to contaminant parts will come. That means pollutant part come in your food, and that will make you ill. So its requirement is sufficient seat and tables. That means for resting, their number of seats, sufficient number of seats and tables should be available at the workplace. Away from work location, it should be away from work location. And hygienic environment. That means that should be clean, and no virus, bacteria. That means properly clean. And means of preparing hot food and drink, and there hot food and drink can be prepared. And separate facilities for new and expectant mother. And also in resting and eating facility there should be separate facilities for new and expectant mother. That means the person, the woman who is pregnant, that should for that person separate facilities should be required at the workplace. Sitting should be appropriate sitting, a stable, backrest, footrest where appropriate. That means if you have to work in front of computer and you are sitting for 8 hours, that means it should be appropriate sitting, it should be stable, backrest should be available, footrest also required, and ventilation. That means if you are sitting in a room and it required to change air, that means sufficient supply of fresh or purified air is required, because if you are in a closed room, then it may chance to come smokes due to your work, or so fresh air is required. This will be available, this will be possible by ventilation. It may be mechanical or it may be natural. And a space adequate to perform tasks safely. That means if you are working, a lots of person are working in a work at the workplace, so every person has sufficient space, adequate space to perform their task. And also noise, that means you can't work in noisy area. That means if more noise, you need protection. So control to reduce noise may be needed. So if at the workplace more than 85 decimal or below 85 decimal, that means it is required to control noise. That means adequately protect that area by insulating that, or by using earplug or ear muff. So this is a very these are the basic welfare facilities at the workplace. Now we will study one by one. What is ventilation? Ventilation means, that means this is the way by which we change contaminated air with fresh air. So factor to consider when providing a workplace ventilation. Workplace ventilation, that means factor, what factors we should consider. That means first one is fresh air to be provided. Fresh air to be provided should not cause discomfort. That means ventilation should not cause discomfort. Ventilation inlet should lead to guarantee that the inbound air is not contaminated. Recirculating systems. A stale, humid or hot air must be changed at the sensible rate. All ventilation devices must be regularly cleaned and tested. So these are some factors which we should consider while providing workplace ventilation. Second one is lighting. Lighting is required according to law. That means if you are working in India, according to Factory Act 1948, lighting is required at the workplace. So what factor you will consider while providing workplace at light? That means according to task. If task is according, that means fine work is there, more lighting required. If you are working not fine work, then less lighting required. So according to task, lighting is required. The size, volume and layout of the workplace. If the size, volume and layout is more, that means you have to arrange more lighting. And equipment being used, what types of equipment is used. If you are working for making jewelry, that means require more light. If you are someone is studying at the workplace, that means more lighting required. If someone is doing fine work, more lighting required. To depend upon the work, availability of natural lighting. If there is no availability of natural lighting, that means artificial lighting should be arranged. And shift pattern. If everyone is working in general shift, that means from 9 to 6 or 9 to 5, that means no required artificial lighting, because it may by sun is the source of light and easily available. So in daytime lighting is not required. But if you are working in night shift, then lighting is very essential at the workplace. And suitability of artificial lighting should be checked. That means it should not be focused on the main face. Glare from computer screen, it should be checked. Area in shadow, that means lighting should be arranged in such a way that no shadow should be there. Need for localized lighting, and also for doing a particular job, localized lighting is also required for on the desk, on the machine. And maintenance and replacement of faulty lighting, and also it should be provision at the workplace. That means faulty lighting and should be replaced as well as possible. and requirement and provision of emergency lighting. Also, emergency lighting should be required, because suppose power cut off, or at the time of emergency there is no power, then you can't escape from there from your workplace. So at the time of power failure, emergency lighting is required. It will give you direction in which direction you should go to escape from here. So emergency lighting is very required at the workplace. Now we are going to study what are the health issues associated with working in hot and cold environment. You know that in some countries, hot, cold, that means in every country the weather condition may be hot or cold. It depends upon the country. In India, in summer season the hot, and in winter season cold weather. So what will the health issue associated with hot and cold environment? We will study in this chapter. Effect of extreme of temperature. If temperature extreme, that means too much, that means in hot environment, what happen with our body, then it skin burn may occur. That means due to direct sunlight come with our on skin, it may chance to skin burn. Dehydration. What do you mean by dehydration? Dehydration means lack of water in our body. And heat exhaustion, that means uh, body heat cramp, and heat cataracts, heat stroke, heat stress, and radiate heat burn. These types of effect may occur at our body. And at the time of cold environment, rapid onset or fatigue, that is fatigue, rapid onset fatigue may occur. Severing, that means uh, shaking of our body. Loss of dexterity, that means if you are trying to catch something, then it may be out of your control. Cold burns and frostbite, hypothermia. These are the some of the effects which may be occur at our body. What control you should take in the hot environment, and what control you should take at the time of cold environment, we will discuss here. The control measures for hot environment we are going to study. First of all, first point is medical pre-selection. That means before appoint any person for your work, medical pre-selection is required. That means medical is required for that person. In Gulf countries and also in India, a lots of company required pre-selection medical. That means medical pre-selection. And acclimatization, cold drink also required in hot environment. Mechanical ads is also, that means you can use umbrella, set, something like that. Minimizing exposure, that means you as much as possible you work minimum in hot environment. And shielding and reflux, that means if some machine is hot, then you shield that, or you use shelter to protect from the sun. And also refugee is required to escape from hot environment. And ventilation, that means air movement is required to carry heat from hot source and sink to the cold source. Control of humidity means water content in the, that means moisture in the air. So it should also required. Suitable clothing, that means cotton clothing is required. And also health surveillance. What do you mean by health surveillance? Surveillance means checking of your health in every 6 months, or depend upon the requirement, is called health surveillance. And reducing heat at source, that means reduce heat at source. Suppose heat coming from furnace, then you can shield that, or you may use other means to engineering control to control that. So reducing heat source. And regular work break. Also, if you are working in hot source, that means you have to drink plenty of water, and also you should take frequently rest break. So due to that, you may mm, you may control hot environment effect on our body. And in the cold environment, if you are working, what control measures you should take, we will study in the next uh, column. First one is use of thermal clothing. Use thermal clothing, that means as we know that in winter season we use sweater and woolen cloth. So thermal clothing should be used. Reduce exposure time, that means you don't go in cold environment, you sit in cabin. That means reduce exposure, that means don't go near the cold source. And monitor of workers, and monitoring of workers is required. Someone is looking after all the workers, that what they are doing and how they are. So supervision is also required. And cold sensor and alarm is also required at the workplace. That means temperature is that, and if you have set some temperature, that means below -5 degree, you have not to work there, then that will give you a alarm that don't work there. So cold sensor and alarm is also required. And heating system, and you can use AC, air conditioning, that means that will heat you in the cold environment. So depend upon the workplace situation, you can apply these types of control measures at your workplace. This, in first column we have studied hot environment control measures, and these are the cold environment control. Second point is also important: stocking and storage falling materials. Stocking and storage in every workplace. If you not properly stock objects, materials, or store, that means it may chance to fall, and if it fall, someone get hurt. So stocking and storage is very essential to maintain safely. So what is the requirement of stocking and storage at the workplace? We will study about that. And if you not store some materials very well, it may chance to fall due to trip, or material may damage, because that may fragile, that means for made of glass or something, a very fragile material may break easily. So workplace can easily become very untidy if housekeeping is not managed. Housekeeping is very required for escape escaping from slipping, tripping, and falling. Housekeeping is very essential at the workplace. Every workplace, management force maintain housekeeping. So housekeeping is very essential at the workplace can easily become very untidy if housekeeping is not managed. So in some instances, a stock and a storage of material can present at immediate danger of collapse. Suppose you have not stored well, and a stocking, that means a stocking of bag, 10 bags you have a stock, one upon one over one, then it may chance to collapse or fall. And sufficient space, suppose you have a stock many store of many materials, then there is no chance to access, there is no way to access there. So sufficient space, and it should be designed, and layout of the workplace must be in place for stocking and storage of materials. Safe stocking and storage rule. What is the rule for safe stocking and storage? We will study here. First of all, secure, that means neatly stocked and a stable level base. Suppose where you are going to store something, that means equipments, bags, or materials, depend upon your workplace requirement. Materials should be secure. Suppose I am taking an example of cylinder. If you are going to store a cylinder, then you can't store cylinder anywhere. It should be properly fenced, and also it should be properly tied through wall. So it should be secured and neatly stocked. That means it should be well arranged and on a stable level base. That means where you are going to stock something or store something, the base should be leveled. That means uh, leveling is required there, because if not leveling is there, that means it may chance to material may fall after stocking. So store items and a storage rack must not be protrude beyond the side of the rack. That means a storage item and a storage rack must not be protruded beyond the side of the rack. It should be not be out of the rack. And circular items such as pipe and drum should be stored in suitably designed restricted rack and firmly chalked to prevent falling. How to store pipe? How to store drum? It is in cylindrical shape, so it may roll from one place to another place, depend upon the geographical condition at your workplace. So it should be in suitably designed uh, restricted rack. You know that pipe is stored in rack made of angle, and also drum we stock made of angle, or that means where we or it should be chalk. That means if you are storing drum, then you should use a metal or something wood piece to choke them from rolling, prevent falling. A storage rack for storing tool and equipment must be marked with maximum loading value. And a storing rack, suppose you have made a rack to store some materials, and if you not mark how much weight it can bear, then it may chance someone can store more weighted materials, so it may chance to collapse. So a lots of cases have been already happened at the workplace, where due to unsuitable racking, unsuitable stocking, material may fall on the person, and it may cause fatal accident at the workplace. You have already watched many videos on the YouTube that give you idea about this. Not overloaded, and that rack should be not overloaded, and bulky items that are manually handled must be stored at lower height. That means bulky item, if you are storing in rack and you have made 4 or 5 racks, then bulky and manually lifted materials should be stored at the low level rack. Due to that, it would be stable and safe access to be provided. Then if you have stored your material and you need to use that, then there should be safe access to go there. And do not allow the storage of item on the top of the cabinet or the furniture, and fitting not especially designed for the storage. That means do not allow a storage item top of the cabinet or other furniture. That means storage types of rack is made differently, so you don't allow to store on the furniture. Segregation of certain material and substance. That means you should segregate some materials, that these are fragile materials, and these are the very small materials, and these are the very heavy materials, and depend upon the use you can also segregate, and depend upon the type, depend upon the their age, you can also store. So segregation of certain material is, if also you know about 5S, that according to use, that means which material you are using daily by daily, you should store at in front, and that is not widely used, you should be used in the last. So segregation depend upon according to your requirement you can segregate materials. So I think I hope that you will able to understand stocking and storage and filing of materials. This is the end of this session. We have already studied about welfare facilities, ventilation, and lighting required at the workplace, and health effect in the hot and cold environment. And also we studied about safe stocking and storage of material. to prevent fall. So in this in this section, element 1.1 is over, and I hope you will understand all things. You will able to understand all things. Thank you, and watch my all video on YouTube. I have already uploaded Hindi version, and I am making these videos for English speaking students who want to make preparation for exam in English and they don't understand Hindi. So these are the these videos for that students, and I think it will be helpful for you. So don't like to subscribe my channel and share and also comment, and I will happy to watch your comment. Thank you. Dhanyavad.